Hello everyone and welcome to all of you to this special Yom Yerushalayim event, the story behind Ammunition Hill. Before I go any further, I would like to acknowledge and thank Moshe Langerman who made this evening possible. Thank you so much. And also welcome Alon Wald of the Ammunition Hill Heritage Center. My wife and I, shortly after we made Aliyah, lived for 10 years of our lives in a 4th floor apartment looking directly over Ammunition Hill. So it is a place that we feel a very close connection to. I'm going to hand over in a few moments to my friend and colleague, Rabbi Koenigsberg. But before I do so, I just want to say how nice it is for us to be able to do a joint event between our Kehilot, the communities of Ner Yisrael and Magen Avot. On Yom Yerushalayim, we celebrate two things. Number one, Israel's remarkable and miraculous survival. One might say that we recognize how Hashem, the God of our ancestors, came to our rescue and shielded us, Magen Avot. And secondly, we celebrate on Yom Yerushalayim the victory of the Six-Day War and our return as a Jewish people to our beloved, once again reunified Yerushalayim. Now the dream of 1948 could be actualized more fully. The spark lit then could reach its full potential. Israel's flame could burn bright once again. Ner Yisrael. So with Magen Avot and Ner Yisrael together celebrating Yom Yerushalayim, I hand over to Rabbi Koenigsberg to introduce our guest and explain the format for the rest of the evening. Rabbi Koenigsberg, over to you.
The sentiment of how wonderful it is to be doing this event together as well. And in Yom Yerushalayim, we talk about Yerushalayim Ke'ir Shechubra La Yachdav, all about a city which really unites us, unites the Jewish people. And once again, to be able to be united with our different Kehilot is wonderful. We're very excited to have our guest speaker tonight live from Yerushalayim. He didn't even have to leave. And that's Alon Wald. Alon is the Director of Operations of Ammunition Hill, Givat Tachmoshet. And I think anybody who knows a little bit about Yom Yerushalayim, about the Six-Day War, we probably first think about the Kotel, but after that I think Ammunition Hill is the place that we think about, really a focal point in the war. There's a song about it, there's everybody's seen the pictures, and we have the opportunity to hear firsthand somebody who is involved in the site as it is from the day-to-day, and of course is involved deeply connected to that story as well. His father was one of those soldiers who fought in the battle, was there, and tragically fell in the battle of the Six-Day War. Without any further ado, I'd like to hand over to Alon, who'll be speaking, giving his presentation for approximately half an hour. After that, there will be time for questions at the end. So Alon, over to you.
Okay, thank you so much for having me. Are you ready for some Israeli accent? I really am not in my comfort zone. I do not have the trenches of Ammunition Hill underneath my feet. I do not have the 3D display, the state-of-the-art modern museum that we have. But this is COVID-19, this is the corona, and the way I could relate to you is through this media. I try to do my best. This is not a lecture. Nothing is written in front of me. I'm going to share with you the story of my life. And I'm going to try to squeeze 53 years of my life and 53 years of Ammunition Hill and make sense and try to find with you the largest common denominator of values that we all share. I was not always a 54-year-old mensch that is going to talk to you and throw amazing words to the air. Believe it or not, I used to be 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. I was running in the trenches of Ammunition Hill, actually my childhood playground, without understanding huge words like camaraderie, bravery, commitment to a mission, Har HaBayit, Kotel. It meant nothing to me. Same as simple naive words like death and father. I'm sitting now in an office on the outskirts of Ammunition Hill, practically 56 meters from the place my father, Captain Rami Wald, fell while penetrating to his friends the minefield between Beit Sefer LeShotrim and Ammunition Hill. They kept on showing me the place. I know where he died, I know the path that led him to his death, but this is not the things I'm going to relate to now. I'm going to try to squeeze the whole story to something that will indeed make sense, and I will use this display. Just a minute. Nod with your heads that you can see it. You can see the maps? Can you see them? Okay. To make a long story short, the beginning of my life, the Six-Day War, 5th of June 1967. The beginning of the story was when Israel was actually in a status quo in front of the Jordanians in Jerusalem. And a couple of weeks before the war started, President Nasser, the mighty president of the Egypt nation, kept on screaming all over the available media. These times it was only television and radio. He made a vow, a promise: I'm going to come to Israel and I'm going to kill you Jews. I'm going to butcher you and throw you to the sea. I'm going to finish whatever Hitler could not do. And the Israel population felt like on the edge of annihilation. They felt like a second Holocaust is going to fall on their heads. People were terrified in the streets of Israel. Israel didn't want to wait until he will make his promise reality. And for the first time ever, Israel nation sent the aviators, the airplanes of the IDF, and they did something never done before. They flew very low above the Sinai Peninsula and entered Egypt and demolished hundreds and hundreds of airplanes of the Egyptian army on the ground. They could not wait. They launched a preemptive strike, and within a couple of hours, Israel, tiny nation, collided against 4 Arab armies. First, it was the Egyptian in the south, the Jordanians in the east, the Syrians in the Golan Heights in the north, but then the Iraqian stepped in as well. And I'm talking about the 6-day war. Try to understand. Within 6 days, the Israel tiny, stubborn, amazing nation collided against these armies, triple the size of Israel, returned to the Holy Mountain, to the Jewish quarter, and to the Kotel, changed the Middle East the way we know it today. People tend to think about it like a miracle. It was never done before. About a day after the war ended, tens of thousands of Jewish people celebrated in front of the Kotel, marveling the reunification of Jerusalem. All over the Jewish diaspora, people were dancing, crying, chanting, thinking that this was something of Ashgacha Elokit, unbelievable. And try to imagine 2 weeks of preparation, edge of annihilation, 2 weeks of preparation, 6 days of war, and the entire nation was marveling the reunification of Jerusalem. At the middle, between these two sides, was stuck 182 bereaved families who could not rejoice and be happy. They paid the ultimate sacrifice. And the government, the Ministry of Defense, the army could not deal with them now. Now, in order to understand the story I'm going to share with you, you need to understand that in any full-scale war we faced in Israel the past 70 years of our existence, the majority of the army is not the enlisted young guys you see all over the streets of Israel when you come over. They are indeed the IDF, Tzal, the best army in the world, but they are not enough to collide against 4 Arab armies. Whenever we need to summon the majority of the fighting units, we bring the reservists. 80% of the fighting units in Israel are the reservists. And who are they? Carpenters, grocery shop owners, lecturers, rabbis, fresh grooms, proud young fathers who have to make time and again this unbelievable shift in their mind from being a lover to a fighter, a carpenter to a tank commanding officer. And the story of the liberation of Jerusalem, you see it's a big map, and we're going to the smaller map and eventually to the tiny corridor of Jerusalem. Fought in Jerusalem 53 years ago, 3 brigades of civilians 2 weeks before. Thousands and thousands of fathers, uncles, lawyers, rabbis who had to make this shift in their mind. And you know the context. We are a Jewish nation. We worship life and peace. We do not breed our youngsters to become martyrs. This is not Sparta. And this is the context of the story I'm going to share with you. One of them was indeed my father. He was 32 years old. He was the love of the life of my mother. He was a proud father to a 10-month baby. And one night the army knocked on his door and said to him, leave your personal welfare. We need you for the greater good because you are also a combat engineer specialist, a paratrooper. And I'm talking about a lifetime of me trying to understand this minute. What led him to leave me and my mother for the greater good? Where does camaraderie and bravery and leadership come from? Does it come with the ranks? Does it come with the uniforms? Not at all. embedded in him, and same as in you guys that listen to me now, are all the essential values he needed to fulfill his destiny. And I remember at the age of 8, 9, 10, I hated my father. I was angry with him. I needed to know why did he leave me. I couldn't understand what is the notion of values of such higher scale commitment. I didn't understand it. And in Ammunition Hill, it was my childhood playground. I ran in the trenches until today. Ammunition Hill, a very strong stronghold that the Egyptian created to control the north side of Jerusalem. I was running here in this claustrophobic maze of trenches, play hide and seek. I didn't know what does it mean, war. But indeed, the paratroopers faced here one of the toughest battles they ever faced in their long ordeal of fightings and battles. It was one of the toughest battles. It is considered to be until today the pivotal battle that led the entire nation to reunite Jerusalem. 36 guys died over there. Almost 100 Jordanians for 4.5 hours in the dead of night of 5th of June, 1967, the 4th year. And until today, we are keeping this because the paratroopers never left this place. One of them was indeed my father. And this is the beginning of my life. And when my father had to leave for 2 weeks of preparation, he was already a captain, and he went and left us for the preparations. And after 2 weeks, when the order came, saying to thousands of paratroopers, we need you up on the buses, 120 buses, 2,000 paratroopers, and go to Beit HaKerem. We need to protect the civilians of Jerusalem, half of Jerusalem, because this is what we received from the 48 Independence War, when two generals chopped the city to two halves, to the Israeli side and the Jordanian side. Neither one of them knew they're going to become part of history. They came to fulfill a great mission, block the Jordanians, nothing but that. Nobody wanted to hassle, with the tens of millions of Arabs from all over the Muslim world. It was a status quo. It was supposed to be kept. But after 2 weeks, when the order entered, my father did something remarkable I want to share with you. Everything in Israel is very small, very squeezed. 2,000 paratroopers in the orchards of Rehovot and Na'an and Machne Israel next to Ramle were waiting for something to happen. When the order came, my father was one of the first to understand they are going to war. He took a jeep along with 2 of his soldiers and drove 20 minutes to Rishon LeZion, where my mother and myself were staying at my grandfather and grandmother's apartment. They were terrified, so she wanted to be with them. And wearing these camouflage uniforms, there was a knock on the door, and my mother said to me, out of nowhere, your father pops up. He didn't give any explanation. He came, he looked intact. He was big, he was very impressive. He stepped into the apartment, he took you in his arms, and he sniffed your head like he loved to do, and he hugged you deeply, and he went to your grandfather, and my grandfather said to me, your father comes to me with you in his hands, and he gives you to me, and he says to me, guard my son. I'm seeing in his eyes, he's trying to say something. It was a secret, he could not say anything. They're going to war. And as fast as he came with his friend, along with his friends, they left without saying anything, without giving any explanation. Now, this is the last picture I have with me and my father. He died the same night. But he gave me something to share with you, saying again and again, and I will keep on saying it during this talk, that my father and his friends were not gods upon earth. He needed us. He needed to say goodbye. In Israel, the front and the Oref and the back, are together. He had to drive these 20 minutes to say goodbye. I will never know if I was a burden on my father's shoulders, if I was an asset, if he thought about me when he ran against the bullets penetrating the way to Ammunition Hill, but he needed to say goodbye. He wasn't a machine of war, he was a human being, and this is a sum up of who he was. The war ended. Tens of thousands of Jews, as I told you, were celebrating the liberation of Jerusalem. At the peak of the celebration were the friends of my father. As I told you, they were reservists. They knew each other. They were good friends. Some of them knew each other from the Palmach, from the Independence War, from the 56 campaign. They knew each other from the kibbutzes, from the fields of the moshav, of the villages. Their wives knew each other. The parents knew each other. And within 2.5 days of the campaign over Jerusalem, they lost 100 of their beloved friends. These guys could not wait for the government, for the nation, for the Ministry of Defense to deal with the bereaved families who were all in a state of shock, because it was indeed a big, big family that made the ultimate sacrifice. And they did something unbelievable. These guys, you can see them pictures from then and from today, decided spontaneously, without an order, to leave the celebrations and to meet at the apartment of the admired doctor of the brigade, Dr. King. He saved lives with his medics 2, 3, 4 days before risking their lives. And they decided to divide the families between themselves. And a day afterwards, there was a knock on the door of my mother's and my father's apartment in Kfar Saba. My father was no longer there. He was dead for 4 days already. And 10 salt of the earth, amazing paratroopers, now civilians once again, stepped inside. My mother hardly remembers anything. She was in a state of shock. She lost the love of her life. I was a 10-month baby. What do I know? And they pointed at me and said to her in so many words, maybe Alonchik lost a father. This is my nickname. Here 10 alternatives, fathers, uncles, older brothers, you name it, doesn't matter. He will never step alone anymore. Now this vow, this promise, resonated in dozens of other apartments all over Israel. They came to the families saying to them, we are here for you. We are one big family. And while doing so, they implemented, you guys, the same values that led them to be victorious against all odds in all the fronts of Jerusalem: camaraderie and bravery and leadership and commitment to a mission, to their nation, teaching us that these values do not belong to the trenches of Ammunition Hill only, do not belong to wartime, do not belong to the IDF, they belong to human beings. And they came to Kfar Saba as human beings once again. And we owe them so much because of this, because these guys were the idols of my childhood. I was raised on the laps of Tarzan and Katja and Gedalia Gal and Tzviki Nur and Amir Keren and Israel Harel. You can see some of them on the photos here. They never asked anything in return, but they kept on guiding me all my life. And from them, without even knowing it, I collected the puzzle of how might my father look like. Small gestures, mimic, values, beliefs, how might my father make a decision. They were one heck of a bunch of fellows to be related to. And the resolution of their support in my life, you cannot even imagine how deep and profound it is. You know, elementary school, you need to bring your father to talk about his career. I had none. 3 classes in an elementary school in Rishon LeZion. I was the only one without a father. But there was a joke in my class, how lucky you are. Every year you bring somebody else. Who will bring us next year, you know? Some sort of a comfort. We have one father. We have so many guys. Some of them became high-ranking officers. Some of them became parliament members. They never left us. And I'm talking about Bar Mitzvah. I'm talking about the cemetery of Har Herzl, the cemetery, the grave of my father. I'm talking about getting married, going to the army. My wife giving birth to the first daughter. They were there for me, guiding me, guarding me. And about 13 years ago, they came to me once again in this truthful way that led you all my life, saying to me, Alonchik, we are here at Ammunition Hill until today. You can see them on a daily basis at Ammunition Hill. We are 80 years old. Tomorrow we are not here. Please. You heard the stories, the exaggeration, the myth, everything. You know, you can speak English. You know new media. Please, we need you and your brothers and sisters, the Tutsis of Ammunition Hill. Please step in and become our voice. And this is some sort of a request from some sort of a father you cannot say no to. And 13 years ago, we came once again to Ammunition Hill, now fully adult men and women, and we made a decision that if we want to keep the story of the liberation of Jerusalem relevant, inspiring, we cannot focus again and again and again only on the 90 seconds or the 60 seconds, the last 60 seconds of the lives of my father and his friends. Indeed, a very amazing, epic story. But if 99% of their lives, they were human beings, we have to tell the story of human beings. And we started 13 years ago with about 70,000 people annually. and now we're reaching peaks of 300,000, 400,000 every year, because we are telling an amazing story that inspires others, and people come from all over the world to listen to what we have to say to them, and these guys assist us until today. Now, if I'm talking about bravery, if you have me now to talk about the most intimate resolution, I want to talk to you about another brave figure in my life. I was 10 months when I started the story. I'm 54 years old now. I was 40 when I was summoned to Ammunition Hill to become part of the storytellers. Another age in my life is very important for me to share with you. It is the age of 17, when the army knocks on my door. And you know, Tzav Rishon, Tzav Sheni, 18 behind the corner, most of us go to the army. I wanted to be a paratrooper. I wanted to know my father through any layer you could possibly imagine. I wanted to extract him from my father's, from my mother. I wanted to know him. I was very, very curious, but I also wanted to be part of this legacy. I wanted my fathers to be proud of me, but I could not go to a combat unit because in Israel, such an amazing nation, we protect the bereaved families. And if somebody from First Relation dies in combat, his successor cannot go by definition, by law, to a fighting unit. You can go to do intelligence, computers, medics, it's okay. I never urge people to become fighters. Do whatever you can do and willing to do, and it's okay. But I wanted to be a paratrooper. I wanted to wear the same red boots my father wore. I wanted to sweat like him because I had to do it. And the only option for me to bypass this law is to approach my legal guardian. And 99% of our lives, the legal guardians are our humble, sweet, dear mothers. At the age of 17, I do not know what I'm going to load on the shoulders of my mother. I'm an egoistic, stupid guy who wants to be a mensch. And there's an annex in the law that allows my mother to gamble her sanity in my life and say to the nation, I know he paid a price. I know he does not have to do so, but it's on me, take my son. A mother that looks into her son's eyes at the age of 17, saying to him, I'm going to sign the waiver for you. You need to understand she becomes this instant as brave as each and every one of the guys I can talk to for hours, what they did in the fronts and in the trenches of Ammunition Hill. And my mother, I dragged her into this story. At the age of 17, I confronted her without even knowing that I'm going to make her so brave. And she looked into my eyes saying to me, Alonchik, I'm going to sign the waiver on your behalf. But you need to understand that it can happen in another manner, another way. A mother that looks into her son's eyes saying to him in such a Jewish, Israeli, unbelievable situation, hate me all your life, do not speak to me ever again, I'm not signing the waiver, you will be alive. She is as brave. And in Israel, a Jewish nation that worship life and peace, you do not judge a mother that said yes, and you do not judge a mother that said no. It's all the same, it's okay. My mommy decided to do so, and I will admire her for the rest of my life for being so brave. At the age of 18 minus 3 weeks, I was summoned with my mother to an office of a lawyer on behalf of the Minister of Defense. He looked into her eyes and asked her, Ginat, are you absolutely sure you know what you're doing? And with the jaws like this, she said yes. She hated every second, but she did it. And she said something, and I will end my part sharing with you what my mother said to me. But at the age of 40, when I started to work here at Ammunition Hill, to make the story bigger and more creative, we received a budget to make commemoration movies of our fathers. And at the age of 40, I had an excuse to go to my uncle saying to him, do you still have something about my father that you didn't give me? I am making a movie. I need some more artifacts, memories. He said, okay, I have something for you. He went to his storage and came back with a wooden box. And I opened it at the age of 40, and I saw his passport, and I saw some other stuff my father left for me and for the history. And I saw the coins of the Tzadat Arbat Hayamim of Jerusalem, and I saw another thing. I saw a postcard. I didn't know this, but after he left the apartment, when he said goodbye, his driver, who is alive until today, said to me, your father was very emotional. He took from his pocket a postcard. Now it's all SMSs and texts. Then they wrote postcards. And he wrote you a letter. This letter, this postcard returned and came to us 4 days after my father was killed already. My uncle saw what was inside. He couldn't give it to my mother. She was in a state of shock. I was a 10-month baby. He put it in this box. And I had to wait a lifetime to see this last request of my father. To my sweet and kind son and my love, hello and many kisses. It seems to be that it is coming. It couldn't have been helped and we must fight. I came over yesterday, but I couldn't say anything. Alon, be a man and take care of your mom, grandpa, and grandma. Meidele, I used to call my mother. Be a fighter and take care of everything and everyone until we shall return, and we will return fast. See you soon, and lots of kisses, Rami. After a lifetime of trying to know my father at the age of 40, I was crying like I never cried before. It's once again saying something to me that my father needed us. We were part of his legacy. And my mother is alive until today. She's the rock of my life. And I really believe that I took care of her. She's a very proud grandmother. But I will cherish this postcard for the rest of my life. And this is part of the legacy we share. My mother said to me when she had to sign in front of this lawyer, she said to me, Alon, I'm going to sign the waiver. Just please promise me not to be as stupid and as brave as your father. Listen to what comes from the guts of a Yiddish mom. She's not an educator. She's not a tour guide or historian, but she said something. And you guys, you understand, you're coming from Europe. You visited all of Europe. Maybe you visited Israel once and twice, and you went to other places in the world. You need to understand that histories of nations is being carved by people who are working between stupidity and bravery. And my lesson to you through my mother, you do not need to be on the edges to make history. Leave your comfort zone again and again and again. Fulfill your dreams and you can make history. Believe in yourself. Summon these values that are inside your guts already from your mother and father place, from your shul, from your synagogue, from your youth movement, college, it doesn't matter. Everything is already inside. You are part of an amazing nation. You only need to choose and you can make history. And what my mother said to me is something we mediate to people that come from all over the world to understand who we are and what do we stand for. And to end the story, in this box, there was another thing. There was the diary of my father, and it so happened that these are my daughters who fulfilled their destiny. Both of them were in the army. Noam and Amit are both students, 27, 26. Matan, she's 16. I'm showing you the picture because when I saw in this wooden box, I saw that my father tried to climb every summit in the world. And one of the summits he tried to climb was the Kilimanjaro in Africa. When he was deployed there to help build the Imperial Army of Haile Selassie, he knew there was a mountain there. And he wanted to pick this summit. And he wrote, I saw an amazing, 57 years ago, yes, he saw an amazing sunrise. I said to my daughter, I'm trying to know my father. Would you come with me to Kilimanjaro to see the same sunrise my father saw? And they said to me, Abba, we are with you. And about 6 years ago, my daughters, myself, 2 Rami Wald, my relatives who are named after my father, along with 19 girls and orphans of Ammunition Hill, after 4 long months of preparation, reached Africa, climbed Africa. You see my daughter looking at me after 5 days. What the hell were you thinking, Abba? It was very tough. It was freezing cold. It was one of the toughest challenges we had to face in our lives. And we saw the same sunrise my father saw 57 years ago from 6,000 meters. It is something unbelievable. Zot zricha elokit, you guys. It is not around. It's like all the horizon is being lit with a torch. And we were in awe. It was something unbelievable. We could not even breathe. After 1 hour, we reached this famous place that my father saw 57 years ago. I took a pin of Ammunition Hill with the Israeli flag and I stuck it inside these frozen logs of wood. And from my guts, I said something I must have kept all my life. Abba, עכשיו אני יודע. Daddy, now I know. I needed to do it with my daughters. There was no oxygen in the air. It was freezing cold and very windy, but I had to come there to see where did it come from, all this motivation to fulfill your destiny, to find your dreams and your challenges. And there was a hug with 2 Rami Walds, 2 of my daughters and myself there. And along with us was Yaki Chetz. When he heard one of the Liberators of Jerusalem, at the age of 74, he decided to come with us to pay homage to his friends, showing us again and again and again that challenges are something in the mind, in the Rosh, in your hearts. And against all odds, he came with us on behalf of his late friends and his living friends all the way up. And this is him in front of the same line. And this is a camouflage I made. This is me, my daughter between my legs over there, and this is my father, as if on the clouds. He was there, he's still there in my mind. The first 5 years in the army, I couldn't, my mother couldn't sleep very well, but my father, you see here, he was here. I became part of the Secret Service. I was a security officer in charge of embassies all over the world, Cairo, Vienna for 4 years. I can speak to you Arabic and German. I ran as far away as I could, but this is much more far away than every place I did and every service I did to my nation. I can talk for hours more, but this is a short version of the legacy of my father and my mother and myself. I really want to thank you for having me. And now Q&A, you can ask me any question you want. I'll be more than glad to answer. Just a minute. Let's close this display and I can see you all.
Thank you so much for those powerful words. Thank you first of all for the talk and for all you've done for the Jewish people and for Israel and for opening your heart to us just now. Very powerful. The emotion, there were parts of your story that I think brought us all to tears. The way you wove the personal with your sense of mission, what you shared about your father, your mother, your uncles, his friends, these brave heroes, and the love and connection you feel with the next generation, with your daughters, and obviously we wish you much nachat from them. We're going to hand over now, as you said, to anyone who wants to ask any questions. You can either post the questions on the chat group and Alon, then I'll share them with you so that you don't have to sort of watch the chat also. Or people can ask questions live. If you want to ask questions live, please either just give a wave on the video. So make sure your video is showing and give a wave. You can use the feature, the symbol feature of a wave if you want to ask questions. Perhaps I'll use the power of the chair just while people are thinking of their questions to ask you a question myself. You spoke about the personal with great power. To Israelis, perhaps a two-part question to Israelis and to B'nai Chutz La'aretz like ourselves. What would you say is the message that you want us to take from Ammunition Hill and the 6-Day War?
It's a great question because what we try to seek when we were brought here to become educators is to seek the widest common denominator of our nation. And I'm urging people that are coming from United Kingdom, from Australia, from Canada, from United States, from all over Israel. When you come here, you can choose 1, 2, 3 values and take them with you. And never take Jerusalem for granted. We are here in United Jerusalem thanks to these guys and their service to our nation. And people believe us. People come to Ammunition Hill and they understand what we are talking about through the values. So if you come, if you want to take something with you, do not ever take Jerusalem for granted. Keep on dreaming and praying and saying Shana Haba Yerushalayim. These values belong to all of us, and this is part of the power of our nation.
Thank you very much. I have a question here in the chat, but that was texted to me. But maybe if anyone wants to ask live before we go to the chat, if anyone has a question. So the question I was asked in the chat here is about connection with the Jordanian soldiers defending the Jordanian police force. Is there any connection with the Jordanian soldiers defending the Jordanian police force? Has any contact been made? Any links there at all that you know of?
It's a great question, and I can talk about it for another hour. It is nothing less than a miracle, because when we signed the peace agreement with the Jordanians, Kacha, who was acquainted to King Hussein and Prime Minister Rabin, King Hussein asked him, Kacha, what can I do for you? And Kacha said to him, he's one of the Liberators of Jerusalem. He was the CEO of Ammunition Hill. He said to him, can you bring over the guys I fought against with, and I want to make a closure with them at Ammunition Hill. And King Hussein said, your wish is my command. And it took a couple of years. IDF brought with a bus from Allenby Bridge to Ammunition Hill, the veteran fighters of Ammunition Hill from the Jordanian side. They were old Bedouins. They came over there and they met the friends of my father. It was something unbelievable. And then they raised something remarkable that was done here. When the fighting of Ammunition Hill was ended, the guys who fought there saw a pile of 17 bodies of dead Jordanian soldiers. They couldn't leave this place without burying these guys in a shallow grave. And they stuck a carbine rifle on top of the grave, and they wrote on a tin they found there, buried here are 17 brave Jordanian soldiers, Army of Israel, June 1967. And the Jordanians came all the way back from Jordan, from Amman, and said, where is the tomb that you buried our friends? Surely they excavated the bodies soon after the war ended, but they said to the friends of my father, we will never forget what you did on behalf of our dead friends. And they keep on coming every other month. Veterans, historians, they come incognito without uniforms. They cannot be very friendly with us officially, but we showed them and the whole world that the Israel nation has a moral code. And the burial they did there is something we educate people. We show the footage of this rifle and the tin plate. They wrote it in English for the world to know who we are, what do we stand for. And Jordanians are coming and they are telling their stories. And the new museum, everything is in Arabic also. You can go there and you can, it speaks 6 languages, one of them deliberately in Arabic.
Thank you very much. Very, very fascinating answer. I see James Marlin has signaled to me. So James, the floor is yours.
Thank you. A very good evening to you. Please forgive me. I only joined just a couple of minutes ago because I was in another Zoom meeting. However, many years ago, I think in 1990, visited the Ammunition Hill Museum when I was learning just down the road. And it had a tremendous effect on me. And I remember something, I obviously need to go back because it was many years ago. Oh my goodness me, almost 30. But I remember something, and I keep saying this, and I just want to clarify I've got it right. And if not, please tell me where I've got it wrong. May 5th, 1967, as I understand it, Egyptian and Jordanian troops were on the border, and it was the Jordanians that actually crossed the ceasefire line, took over the United Nations building in what they called East Jerusalem, and it was then that Israel fired the first shot. Have I got it right?
Almost right. It was very simultaneously parallel to what happened in Egypt. I said at the beginning of my talk that they were all prepared on the borders to launch an assault and kill us Jews and throw us to the sea. And Israel government decided to launch a preemptive strike. And they sent the aviators to demolish the airplanes of the Egyptian army on the ground. It was something that was never done before, and armies of all over the world study it until today. We sent a message to King Hussein, stay out of it. Do not do anything because we didn't want to open the third front. But he was under the command, the joint command of the Egyptian, and they gave him an order. A general flew and said to him, no arguments, you are entering the war. And he did something. He started the war from his side. It was hours after our aviators actually started the preemptive strike, and he couldn't be persuaded not to do it. It was his mistake. They said that he mistaked twice. Once entering the 6-day war, and the second time not entering the Yom Kippur 73 war. If he would have entered Yom Kippur, we could not speak together now. Sometimes God gives his, make his choosings. But it was simultaneously, but one tact after we started in Egypt.
Thank you. Actually, leading on very nicely from that question, someone has texted asking on the chat, Zoom chat, group chat, and if anyone else has questions, please do use that facility or ask them live. Whether you can tell us more about the battle itself, some of the nitty-gritty, and also some of the slightly more detail about the history of the site. When were the trenches built? Exactly by whom? Why was that site chosen as the point that would be the fort over which the base was built?
1917, at the end of the First World War, General Allenby, whom you surely know, was standing in front of the old city of Jerusalem, looking at the army of the mighty army of Great Britain, and said to his officers, "Where the hell I'm going to put all these units, all these cannons, these mules? Find me an isolated place of strong on the ridges in north of Jerusalem." His intelligence officer mounted a horse and rode 1,000 meters to the north. He saw what we now call Ammunition Hill, a big hill overlooking the north side of Jerusalem. And he said, "Bring General Allenby over here." And General Allenby said, "Bring all the Ammunition Hill." He named it Ammunition Hill. And for all the years the British mandate was in Israel, the British mandate kept there the supplements and the ammunition, and it was not a stronghold. When the British mandate ended and the Independence War started in 1948, the Jordanians took over this ridge. Whoever controlled Ammunition Hill can control the entrance to the north side of Jerusalem from Jaffa, from Ramallah, from Jericho, from Mount Scopus, and from the old city of Jerusalem. It's a pivotal place, and he understood it. And then in the first couple of years after the Independence War, the Jordanians created the trenches and reinforced this place. They created a maze of 300 meters of trenches and 40 bunkers, and they kept on overlooking the Israeli side of Jerusalem. And the same as General Allenby and the same as the King Hussein generals, when the war started, they understood nobody can reach Mount Scopus and the old city of Jerusalem without taking over this ridge. And they launched 120 paratroopers against 120 guys from the Jordanian side who were the Bedouins of the El Hussein tribe. They were more afraid of King Hussein than they were afraid of death. They knew Ammunition Hill that like the palm of their hands. They didn't go backwards. When the paratroopers went inside in the dead of night of 5th of June, they did not have maps, night Googles. They did not know the inside waiting for them. 3 times more soldiers than they anticipated. They had actually, against all odds, they came out victorious. And they went into the trenches. Try to imagine 60-centimeter width of trenches. When you squeeze inside 80 paratroopers armed to the teeth, it's a long snake of soldiers. The only guys who could be effective are the guys in the front. And in the IDF, we do not scream charge. We scream after me. So the first casualties of this battle were the officers. And the story of Ammunition Hill is a story of privates, seeing the captains falling in front of them, forcing themselves to do whatever they are forced to do now, because there are no sergeants in the area, no other captains or other officers. And 3 of them, Yaki Chetz, you saw him in the photos earlier, received Medal of Valor because of what they did there, because with no ranks, with no orders, without being educated to be leaders, they seized the moment and they created history. And this battle, you should come to Ammunition Hill and you can see how we expose layer after layer. It is exactly how it looked. We preserved it the way it is, and now it serves as an educational asset and people come from all over the world to see it.
Thank you very much. Maybe I'll just ask one more question here. Someone has asked whether, when taking tours, do you find that people understand the importance of the place and the battle that took place there? Are the younger generation aware of its importance? What's your sense of again, maybe both within Israeli society and with the tourists that come from Chutz La'aretz?
Sure. This was the target. Youngsters, the second generation, the next generation, the next leadership of Israel and the Jewish nation. It was the aim of our focus. And today I'm proud to tell you that hundreds and thousands of students are coming to celebrate Bar Mitzvah at Ammunition Hill. 3 years afterwards, thousands of them coming to accept the blue citizenship card there. Before the army, they're coming once again. And for this, we created the amphitheaters and halls, and people can come here and celebrate. In city of Rehovot, 1,500 kids every year are coming to celebrate Bar Mitzvah at Ammunition Hill. And Rabbi Cook is standing in front of them, Rabbi Cook of Rehovot, and talking to them, sharing with them the legacy of his Cook family in Jerusalem. And we are so proud that people choose to come and celebrate there and be part of the bigger story. So kids are coming, Birthright kids are coming, Hillel groups are coming from the United States. And we are very proud. Everything we do at Ammunition Hill is translated to 6 languages, and you can go. The museum this guy just talked about, we completely altered it. 2 years ago, we demolished everything, and now it's a state-of-the-art modern museum that you can listen to the story with headsets. And please come over and see it yourself.
Thank you. One more quick question, if that's okay, and I know we're reaching really the limits of our time. Someone wanted to ask whether the well-known song from Yoram Ta'alev is accurate. Is this an accurate record of the events in Ammunition Hill?
These are the exact statement he took from a newspaper B'Machaneh, the statement of the soldiers. He took them and he wrote, but it didn't always rhyme. So when he met the guys that fought here, they said to him, "You talked about Margemot 120. We didn't have Margemot 120, only 81. He said, "Yes, but it didn't rhyme, so I had to change it." But this is legit, it's okay. This song was the starting point of Ammunition Hill, because thanks to this song, we became a myth, a legend, and people can listen to it over here. But it's accurate. These are the exact wording of the soldiers.
Thank you very much. I'm not going to express all the thanks that I feel, because we have run out of time, and therefore I'm going to hand over to my friend and colleague, Rabbi Konigsberg, to, on behalf of all of us, express appreciation and thanks.
Thank you so much. Please take care of yourselves. Corona will become a memory. Create it as a good memory, and I hope to see you sometime soon, either at your place or in Israel. Everything will be okay, I assure you. Elohim Shomer.
Thank you, Alon. Thank you so much for a deeply moving, inspiring presentation. Like Rabbi Zobin, I'm not going to express all the thanks that I feel, because it just can't be expressed, really. It was spectacular. And just to end off, I'll just say, many times we think about Yerushalayim, this concept which is larger than life, and it is, and it's part of the national story, it's part of the bigger story, but you really helped us to understand how that bigger story is made up of individuals, it's made up of the human side, and helping us all to connect to that, to connect to your personal story. I guess all of us can leave, thinking about our personal story, how we connect to Yerushalayim, and how we'll all connect to that bigger picture. And just to let everybody know, after we end off tonight, is invited and encouraged to watch on the YouTube page of Mizrahi. I think the link was sent out. Now WhatsApp will be sent out in emails as well. There is now a special presentation as well, going through the history, looking at maybe that bigger picture as well from a different angle. Wishing everybody a Chag Sameach, and thank you once again.
It does sound better in Hebrew. I want to apologize for my English. It's the best I could do, but I hope I was understood. So thank you for having me, and take care of yourselves.
Your English was excellent. Thank you so much. That was fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
It was very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.